Evergreen Lodge smelled like pine and lies. I sat under a Christmas wreath, divorce papers warm in my pocket, a deputy at my shoulder. The elevator chimed. She stepped out. White bathrobe, damp hair, eyes widening when they found mine. "Ma'am, your name?" the deputy asked. "Lauren Harris." The envelope touched her palm like a gavel. She flinched. "Michael, wait." I didn't. 16 years ended between the lobby rug and the elevator doors. You're wondering how a husband gets here. You're asking if I overreacted, if there's a version where I forgive, if there's more to the story than a bathrobe and a lie. There is. There's a second phone, messages scrubbed and resurrected, a boss who smiled across my grill at barbecues, and a woman who told me I should already know what she needed while she gave it to someone else. If you've ever swallowed doubt to keep the peace, don't look away. This is the minute everything breaks. Maple Ridge looked like a postcard. Sprinklers ticked across trimmed lawns. Kids rode bikes with baseball cards in the spokes. And our grill hissed under a sunset that made everything look honest. On our patio, Lauren handed me a plate of ribs while Lily teased her little brother Noah about his ketchup mustache. Inside, a wall of frames told our story. Wedding smiles, first day of school backpacks, beach trips where we built crooked sandcastles and called them castles anyway. I believed in that wall. I believed in Saturday Costco runs, church on Sunday, leftovers on Monday. Stability felt like a warm jacket you forgot you were wearing. When neighbors waved, I waved back with the quiet pride of a man who'd paid his mortgage on time and learned his kids' teachers' names. People say happiness is a big moment. I think it's 1,000 small ones you don't want to lose, but photos don't play audio. And lately, our perfect scene had gone strangely quiet. Something was missing, but I couldn't hear it yet. I wasn't flashy. I was dependable. Up at 6, coffee, commute. A job that didn't make headlines, but paid for braces, cleats, and the 5 and 29 plans I bragged about to no one but myself. I coached Noah's soccer team, tried to make 12-year-olds pass the ball, and learned patience I didn't know I had. I checked tire pressure before road trips and kept a folder for every warranty. I wasn't a perfect husband, but I was present, the kind of guy who shows up early and leaves last, who tightens the loose cabinet hinge without being asked. On the 4th of July, I watched fireworks bloom over Maple Ridge and felt that deep, ordinary joy. This is my family, my address, my life. Lauren stood by me, wine glass in hand, the red, white, and blue reflecting in her eyes. I thought we were on the same page, living the same paragraph. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I missed the sentence where the tone changed. Because pride can drown out a whisper you need to hear. Lauren could walk into a room and make it feel smaller, in a good way, like she focused it. Power dresses, fast emails, heels tapping a tempo down our hallway. She remembered client birthdays and Lily's science fair on the same calendar, somehow never dropping a ball. I admired her. Truth is, I admired her so much it shaded into fear. Don't disappoint. Don't be slow. Don't be needy. She'd say, "I need you to anticipate, Michael." And I tried. Dinners planned. Little surprises, gas in her car when she was too busy to notice the light. Sometimes I got it right. Sometimes I didn't. Once I asked, "What would help this week?" She sighed. "If you have to ask, you don't get it." The word slid under my skin and stayed. I told myself it was stress, quarter-end pressure, the American treadmill we all run. She kissed my cheek and moved past me, phone in hand, already elsewhere. Admiration is a bright light until it blinds you to what's behind it. Perfect is a picture without sound. Sound is where the truth lives. The click of her phone face down on the table. The fork that stops midair. The late-night shower that runs a little too long. At dinner, Noah told a joke and we laughed. And right in the swell of it, buzz. Lauren glanced, then didn't. Something about that restraint felt louder than a ringtone. In the living room, I framed a new photo. Us at the coast, wind in our hair, and pressed it onto the wall between Disney smiles and birthday candles. The glass caught the lamplight, and for a second I saw two versions of us. The one we showed the world, and the one reflected back at me, quieter, lonelier. I told myself every marriage has seasons. I told myself to wait it out, but waiting can be its own kind of answer. That night, I lay awake, counting the spaces between her breaths. And in the space between breaths, I heard the first crack. Lauren started calling everything a client dinner. Tuesdays, Thursdays, sometimes Sundays after a urgent pitch. I adjusted like husbands do, kept dinner warm, wrapped plates in foil, reset the microwave when the power blinked. One night, I saved her a serving of casserole and a joke I knew would land. At 9:40, she texted, "Running late. Don't wait up." I stared at the 3 words that used to mean overtime and now felt like a closed door. The kids were already in bed. The house hummed with refrigerator noise and the soft tick of the thermostat. At 11:17, headlights slid across the ceiling. She kissed my hair, not my mouth, and apologized to the air. "Client dinner," she said, heels in her hand, perfume too new to be ours. I mumbled something gentle because married people pick peace over truth on weeknights. But in the bathroom mirror, my face didn't buy it. Peace shouldn't taste like swallowed questions. At all. I caught Lauren laughing at her phone, the kind of laugh you save for someone who gets your punchlines. We were folding laundry, grown-up romance, when the screen lit her face like a campfire. I said, "Share it." She angled the phone away, smile clipped, and offered me a stray sock instead. Married life has these tiny forked paths. Press and you fight. Let it go. And you file it under later. I chose later, but later kept moving. That week, she became a magician. Screen down, notifications off, camera roll suddenly empty of anything candid. At dinner, I told a story about Noah's team finally passing the ball. She nodded at the right places, eyes soft, mind somewhere with better lighting. After the kids slept, I reached for her, gentle, willing to be a bridge. She froze, then said, "I'm exhausted." It landed like a verdict. In bed, the glow of her phone painted the ceiling. That light felt like a stranger. Cold is a temperature, but it's also a tone. Lauren used to hum while cooking. Now the kitchen sounded like a showroom. Clean, efficient, unlived. She stopped asking Lily about the lab partner with the blue hair. She forgot which night Noah practiced and double-booked herself with client drinks. When she did sit with us, it was as if someone had turned down her volume. I'd try to warm the room. Bad dad jokes. A playlist from our dating years. Her favorite tea just right. She'd say, "Thanks," the way you thank a polite waiter, and scroll 3 inches lower. Saturday, we drove to Lily's game, and Lauren had to take a quick call in the car. She missed our daughter's goal and came jogging over with an apology that didn't match the scoreboard. On the way home, the kids fell asleep in the back seat, a quiet that makes you protective. I looked over at Lauren. She was back on mute. There's a moment in every marriage when you ask a question you don't want answered. Mine came while I fixed a leaky faucet. Water on my knuckles. The wrench slipped, and I thought, why am I working so hard to hold together a house if the people inside are sliding apart? I dried my hands and walked past the wall of photos, our museum of joy. The smiles looked permanent until you remembered film is just chemicals and light. In the hallway, Lauren brushed by with a suitcase I hadn't seen packed. "Overnight client summit," she said, eyes already on tomorrow. I nodded like a man at a counter, signing for a package he doesn't remember ordering. After she left, the house settled into that quiet folks know, the kind after kids move out or a parent passes. Only nobody had left, not officially. I stood in the doorway to our bedroom and let the question land. Am I losing my wife? I tried to be reasonable, the way men my age are trained to be. Make a list, adjust schedule, say less, listen more. I offered solutions. Date nights, a weekend in Estes Park, a counselor recommended by a buddy who swore it saved his marriage. Lauren smiled like I'd handed her a brochure for a trip she'd already taken without me. "Don't overthink," she said. "It's just a busy quarter." Busy quarters don't smell like perfume at midnight. They don't come with secretive grins and showers that start the second the garage door closes. One Thursday, I set 2 wine glasses on the counter and waited. She arrived late, laughed at her screen, then flipped it face down when I stepped closer. I heard myself ask, calm as a news anchor, "Are we okay?" She kissed my cheek and drifted past. Answer unanswered. I stood in kitchen, hand on the untouched corkscrew, and knew. Every marriage dies quietly before it explodes. When doubt feels like quicksand, you reach for solid ground. I pulled down the old photo boxes, anniversaries, baby cheeks, beach wind in our hair. I told myself out loud, she loves me. I replayed the reel, the night Lily was born and Lauren squeezed my hand like a lifeline. The time our transmission died and we ate gas station crackers on the shoulder, laughing anyway. I scrolled our phones for years of made it home, pick up milk, proud of you, ordinary love. stacked like bricks. If you're my age, you know the power of ordinary. Quiet dinners, back rubs after mowing, a text at lunch that says, "How's your day?" I tried to let those moments testify for us, but pictures don't swear an oath, and memory can be a defense attorney with soft hands. I pressed a wedding photo flat and watched the glass reflect my face. The frame held. My certainty didn't. The past felt solid. The present was starting to slip. I called my mother because that's what men my age do when the ground moves. She listened the way moms do. No fast judgment, just the sound of her breath and the clink of a spoon in her tea. "She's just stressed, honey," Mom said. "Work runs people ragged. Be patient. Love is a season." She told me how Dad's layoffs in the 90s turned him brittle and how patience kept them in the boat. I wanted that story to be mine. I wanted to be the man who waits out the storm, who doesn't make a mess worse by thrashing. "Bring her flowers," Mom said. "Take her to that steak place she likes. Don't push." I wrote it down like homework. Patience, steak, no pushing. I hung up calmer, like a warm towel out of the dryer. That night, I set the table with real napkins and her favorite playlist. She texted, "Running late, big client." The napkins waited, so did I, alone with Mom's good advice. If love is work, I clocked in. I ordered "How to Reconnect Your Marriage." Highlighted so much, the pages turned neon. I tried the podcast with the cheerful therapist who says, "Assume goodwill." I made a list labeled "Us," and under it, apologies I owe, surprises she likes, things I can do without being asked. I set reminders in my phone. Text her at 2 p.m. You plan Sunday hike. Ask about her big pitch. When you're in your 40s and 50s, you learn to fix what you can touch. Fences, faucets, budgets. I treated my marriage like that. Tools out, manual open, no ego. She came home late. I said light, "Tuesday, steak?" "My treat." Lauren gave a tired smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Let's see the week," she said, already walking past. I flipped to a chapter titled "Signs You're Trying Alone." The words landed hard. I could fix a hinge. I couldn't tighten what wasn't attached. Assuming goodwill felt like assuming fiction. Connection isn't only talk, it's reach and be met. I tried to meet her. I brewed her tea right, honey first so it melts. I rubbed the knot between her shoulders while she typed, waiting for the exhale that says stay. She rolled forward and said she needed to finish an email. I booked a Friday night, sitter and all, and ironed a shirt like it was 2008. At 4 o'clock, she texted, "Crisis!" "Rain check?" I stared at the message until the words blurred, then told the sitter not to come. Later, in bed, I turned toward her, hand on her hip, and asked softly, "Can we just be us tonight?" She flinched, tiny but real, then reached for the blanket instead of me. "I'm exhausted," she whispered to the dark. There's a sound your heart makes when a door closes without slamming. I lay still, careful not to make her wrong. But when you keep reaching and find air, you start counting your own breaths. Sleep used to come easy after long days. Not anymore. The house made old house noises, air vents sighing, the refrigerator's low hum, the water heater ticking like a patient clock. I watched the red digits crawl. 12:31, 12:58, 1:22. Lauren's phone lit the ceiling in pulses, a lighthouse for a ship I wasn't on. I told myself I was being paranoid. Then I told myself I wasn't. Men my age learned to read numbers, so I read the ones I could touch. The cell bill, odd spikes at midnight, the mileage, gas used for drives she didn't mention, the calendar, holes where we used to be. I stood at the window and studied our quiet street, the same cul-de-sac where kids once chalked rainbows. Somewhere between 2 and 3 a.m., the denial cracked. I heard my own voice, steady and unfamiliar. "You need the truth. Not a fight, not a scene. Proof." I put the bill back in the drawer and closed it gently. Morning would come. So would the next step. It started small, like most storms. We were half watching a crime show, the kind where the commercials are louder than the plot. Lauren's phone buzzed. She typed fast and let out a quiet laugh, the kind you save for someone who knows your shortcuts. I said, "Light, what's funny?" She didn't look up. "Work stuff." 2 words that used to mean spreadsheet jokes and late deliverables. The show kept talking. We didn't. In marriages our age, you learn the value of picking your spots. I told myself not tonight, not over a chuckle, but the laugh stayed in the room after the credits rolled. In the kitchen, I rinsed our mugs and counted habits. She used to share memes with me. She used to tilt the screen toward my shoulder. I went to bed first and listened to the house settle. When she slipped in later, her phone lit the ceiling in soft pulses. That glow felt like someone else's porch light left on. By morning, the phone that lived on our counter was gone. Not misplaced, gone. The charger sat empty like a vacant dock. At lunch, I reached for it to snap a photo of Noah's lopsided sandwich tower and realized there was nothing to reach for. "I'm streamlining," she said when I asked. "Less screen time." That afternoon, her lock screen changed. The previews vanished. Even the cheery chime went silent, replaced by a haptic tap I could feel more than hear. Households like ours run on tiny systems. Who keeps the calendar? Who knows the Wi-Fi password? Who resets the router when the storm hits? Overnight, I was a guest in my own network. That evening, I scrolled our shared albums to print a picture for Lily's project. Empty. Folders we'd built for summers and birthdays were scrubbed clean on her side. "Work compliance," she shrugged, already moving. I told myself it was reasonable, but reasonable things don't erase family photos. 2 nights later, we were leaving the grocery store when her tote gave a quick, nervous buzz. Not the chime of the phone I knew. Shorter, sharper. A second heartbeat. "That your tablet?" I asked, holding the door. "Probably," she said, shifting the bag to her far shoulder. In the car, Lily and Noah argued about cereal flavors. I loaded the trunk and watched Lauren tuck the tote deep by her feet like it needed shade. At home, she went straight upstairs with the bag. A minute later, I heard the bathroom fan and the lock. It's amazing what normal looks like if you stare at it long enough. After the kids were down, I carried laundry past our dresser and the tote was there, mouth open, zipper shy of closed. A slim black phone stared up at me in a case I'd never seen, power light blinking like it breathed. Second number, second life. There's a sound your gut makes when confirmation fits the rumor. I'm not a hacker. I'm a dad who keeps manuals and receipts. So I started where men my age start. The paper trail, the cell bill, showed late-night spikes that didn't match our routines. The family plan listed a device ID I couldn't place. I Googled what I could. Careful, slow, not trying to catch her so much as catch my balance. On our old laptop, an iCloud window still remembered a password from saner days. Most messages were gone, cleaned like a rental after checkout, but fragments clung to the corners. Preview lines and backups, calendar crumbs, a hotel confirmation that auto-filled a name before it disappeared. 2 words here, 3 there, like finding torn corners of a letter in the trash. A heart emoji without a name. Last time was perfect. Can't talk? He's home. My hands shook the way they did the day Lily learned to ride a bike and I let go. Only this time, letting go wasn't the goal. It was one line in a canceled calendar invite that didn't quite delete. Coffee with Ryan, 7:30. Ryan, common enough, until I remembered barbecue smoke curling over our fence last summer and a man with a firm handshake praising my grill while giving my wife the kind of smile you practice in mirrors. Ryan Cooper, her boss. I clicked through what was left. An autofill here, a Wi-Fi login there, and the pattern got legs. It wasn't a stranger from nowhere. It was the guy who asked about my brisket rub and called me buddy while refilling Lauren's wine. My mind ran a split screen, his backyard with lawn games and craft beer, our bedroom with unanswered questions, and a second phone tucked in a tote. I didn't shout. I sat down at the kitchen table with the cell bill and a pen underlining dates like a man circling deer tracks in fresh snow. Now the story had a name, and names are hard to know. Evidence changes a man's posture. I stopped pacing and started listing. Phone logs, calendar crumbs, credit card blips. Still, I needed help. My old college buddy Nate works in IT and fixes the kind of problems people whisper about. I drove to his basement office with a shoebox of printouts and a laptop that still remembered last year's passwords. He didn't lecture. He plugged in a drive and said, "Breathe." While scripts scrolled like rain, we made small talk about youth soccer and that one professor who never graded on time. Then a window opened. Backups, caches, thumbnail ghosts of things that didn't want to be seen. Nate clicked gently, like handling glass. "You sure you want this?" he asked. I nodded. A preview line surfaced from a deleted thread. "Can't wait to see you again." Not ours, not me. In the reflection of his monitor, my face looked older. He handed me a folder. "Take it home," he said. I left. At the kitchen table, I opened the folder like it might bite. What we recovered wasn't whole. No neat paragraphs, just slivers. Half a sentence here, a timestamp there, an emoji floating without a name. Still, fragments have edges. Miss your laugh. Same place? Parking in the back. A calendar stub led to a confirmation. Denver Marriott, 2 adults, 1 room, a corporate rate that didn't belong to us. I lined the scraps by date the way dads line up screws on a towel when fixing a sink. A pattern formed. Late texts, early exits, Thursdays gone thin. I heard my mother's voice, be patient, and another voice I barely recognized, be honest. I didn't rage. I read. I circled. I starred. When Lauren walked in, I closed the laptop and asked about her day. She kissed the air and said busy, the word that had stopped explaining anything. After she showered, I reopened the file and found one more shard. Can't wait to see you again. Again. Older men know this rule. If it isn't written down, it didn't happen. So I wrote. Dates, times, charges, mileage, the Marriott line that kept reappearing like a watermark. I pulled bank statements and found a payment that matched a night she claimed she was in Boulder with a client team. Marriott isn't in Boulder. I printed the receipt and slid it under a magnet shaped like a lighthouse, Lily's third-grade craft, because I needed something steady on that fridge. My hands remembered other lists. Baby feeding times, soccer schedules, tax deadlines. This one tasted like metal. I pictured the lobby chairs I'd never sat in, the ice machine hum, the privacy sign turned the wrong way. Proof makes you lonely before it makes you strong. I almost walked into our bedroom and asked for the truth. Instead, I stared at the lighthouse and thought about ships that signal when they're in trouble. Mine was flashing. I just hadn't radioed back. Confrontation is gasoline. Timing is the match. I could have blown up our kitchen with a single question. But I've lived long enough to know the first explosion rarely ends the fire. That night, I loaded the dishwasher, rinsed pans, and let the hum cover my breathing. I opened the laptop once more. Same lines, same edges, the same name that had started living in our house. You don't win by being the loudest. You win by being the clearest. I needed clarity no one could spin. So I rehearsed what not to do. Don't call Ryan, don't stalk, don't shout in front of the kids. Then I rehearsed what to do, document, confirm, protect the children, guard my paycheck, sleep if I can. Sleep didn't come. At 2:11 a.m., I stood in the hallway and watched shadows pool under our bedroom door. I realized I didn't need an argument. I needed a witness, and I knew exactly who had the right to see. I found Emily's number in last summer's neighborhood text chain, the one about fireworks and parking. My thumb hovered. Wives talk, husbands nod at the grill. Crossing that line felt like breaking a rule older than our street, but marriage had already been broken, and lies were living rent-free in my house. I stepped onto the porch where the night smells like cut grass and faraway rain, and I called, "Emily, it's Michael Harris from Maple Ridge." Silence, then kindness wrapped in caution. "Everything okay?" I told her I had fragments, times, hotel confirmations, messages without names, and one name that refused to go away. She didn't gasp. She listened. Then she said the sentence that steadied me. "If there's truth, we'll find it. Together." We agreed to meet at a cafe near downtown, neutral ground, bright lights, receipts for everything. When I hung up, the porch felt different. Same boards, same swing, new gravity. I wasn't walking into a fight. I was walking toward proof. We met at a cafe in Denver with too much daylight to lie. Big windows, burnt coffee, the hiss of milk steaming, safe sounds for unsafe news. Emily arrived in a navy sweater, hair pulled back like she'd come to work, not cry. We did the polite dance, how are the kids and how's work, then set our cups aside like helmets. I told her what I had, fragments, hotel receipts, a name that wouldn't leave our kitchen. She didn't interrupt. She didn't rescue me with, "Maybe it's nothing." She listened like a grown-up who knows storms by their smell. When I finished, she folded her hands and for a long second looked past me to the street, where buses kept being buses and strangers kept being strangers. "I need proof," she said finally, steady as a level on a toolbox. "Not for a fight, for the truth." She slid her phone toward me and added, almost to herself, "I might have a way." The hiss of the steamer sounded like a fuse. Older adults learn the quiet tech rules. Family sharing saves money, and most couples stop changing passwords after the first set. Emily knew those rules. Ryan's iCloud is tied to our plan, she said, voice low. He's casual with security. She logged into a browser and typed with the concentration of a person balancing two lives on one screen. A two-factor code pinged his iPad at home. She had it forwarded long ago for calendars, she said, eyes hard. The account opened like a house where someone forgot to lock the back door. Not everything was there, but enough. Device backups, message previews, photo thumbnails grayed out but labeled calendar invites that had been deleted from view, not from history. She scrolled, then stopped. A message header dated 8 months back. Evergreen Lodge check-in. Your reservation is confirmed. Emily swallowed, then clicked another breadcrumb. Can't wait to see you again. No names in the preview, but patterns don't need names. Her finger hovered. We keep going? She asked. We kept going. Emily opened messages in the backup, a place most people forget exists until it ruins them. Threads bloomed like weeds after rain. They weren't whole, attachments missing, gaps where shame had done its erasing, but the bones were there. Blue and gray bubbles carrying a tone I recognized. Stolen. You free Thursday? Same place, parking and back. Wish I could wake up with you. A photo thumbnail showed a hotel headboard I'd never seen in my house. Emily didn't sob. She set the phone on a napkin like evidence at a clean crime scene and quietly took screenshots, methodical as a nurse drawing blood. Timestamp, she said. Location. A calendar ping lined up with a charge on my printout. Another thread overlapped a night Lauren told me she was too tired to talk. My stomach turned the way it did the day my dad called to say the biopsy wasn't good. Information changes temperature. Emily exhaled. This is not small. It was one message buried under dozens that set the timeline. 2 years and it still feels new. 2 years. The math did its cruel work. Lily's birthday. Noah's playoff. Thanksgiving at my mother's table where Ryan had said grace and passed the rolls. I remembered the day he stood in my yard praising my brisket and telling me real marriage is about showing up. He'd smiled at Lauren when he said it. The cafe felt colder. Outside, a city bus sighed at the curb, doors opening, doors closing, people boarding their next thing like it was simple. Emily's face went white under the cafe lights, the kind of pale that happens when your body understands before your mind does. She whispered, "This isn't a fling, Michael. It's a map." I nodded because nodding is what men do when there aren't words yet. We looked at the calendar together and circled dates we had both lived through without knowing. The story didn't start last week. It had roots. When the shock passed, purpose moved in. We laid our evidence side by side. Her screenshots, my bills, her calendar, my receipts. Like two neighbors aligning fence posts on the property line. No yelling, Emily said. No scenes. We do this clean. I heard my own voice answer, stronger than I felt. Clarity over noise. We listed steps on a napkin, secure the kids' routines, consult attorneys, document without tampering, schedule a time to serve papers where excuses die fast. We chose a neutral phrase if either of us panicked. Check the porch light, because older adults know signals can keep you from capsizing. Emily tapped the reservation email for Evergreen Lodge. They like Saturdays, she said. We'll pick a Saturday. I stared at the line with the room number and imagined the elevator doors opening, a bathrobe, wet hair, a deputy with a steady voice. The future had a shape now, awful and exact. We stood, paid cash, and walked out into the honest daylight. My hands shook over the printouts. Can't talk. He's home. 6 words with a smug tilt, like I was a prop in their play. Rage rose fast, the kind that makes your ears hot and your voice stupid. I thought about the nights she snapped at me for loading the dishwasher. Wrong. The time she rolled her eyes when I asked how to help. It's funny what you remember when the floor drops. A slammed cupboard, a sigh that says you don't measure up. I wanted to drive to his house, bang on his door, make a scene the neighborhood would still whisper about in spring. Instead, Emily's voice cut through, calm as a metronome. We don't scream. We show them. My father used to say a real man doesn't wrestle in mud. He drains the field. I put the keys back on the hook. Anger can build a bonfire or a bridge. I decided it would build the bridge I needed to cross. We wrote ground rules on a yellow pad like grown-ups who'd seen things burn. No drunk texting, no drive-bys, no ambushing in front of kids. Document quietly. Protect paychecks. Secure copies of everything. Emily had a name for it. Clarity over chaos. and I clung to it like a handrail. I called a lawyer my buddy recommended, a gray-haired man who said breathe before he said strategy. He explained service, timing, and why emotions make expensive mistakes. He told me to freeze the credit line we shared, change my passwords, and stop narrating my moves to the person under investigation. It felt cold. It was adult. I set up a new email and moved our important files to a drive she didn't know existed. At dinner, I passed the salt, poured the milk, asked about Lily's project, played normal like a part I suddenly understood. Anger still pulsed under the table, but rules gave it walls, and walls keep houses standing. I built a timeline the way I fix a deck. Measure twice, cut once. Spreadsheets, dates, miles, charges. The Marriott line item lined up with her Boulder Summit that never existed. Emily matched screenshots to my bills, each overlap tightening the frame. We called the Evergreen Lodge not to snoop, but to confirm a reservation number that kept surfacing like a buoy. The desk clerk, cheerful and oblivious, repeated the check-in time I already feared. I found a process server who'd done this 100 times, a man whose voice had no edges. He told me how it works. Confirm identity, deliver, step back. No drama, just paper and proof. He coordinated with the county deputy in case things went loud. Emily booked herself a separate room, witness, not participant, and reminded me to sleep, which I didn't. In the quiet kitchen, I stared at the elevator icon on the reservation email. The plan wasn't a fantasy anymore. It had a floor number. The days leading to December 18th stretched like gum. Everything ordinary became a trigger. The scent of hotel soap at a gas station, a coworker joking about client dinners, a bathrobe folded at the foot of our bed. I kept my voice even, my routine steady, packed school lunches, fixed a wobbly chair, paid the water bill. Emily texted code, porch light on, and I'd reply on, meaning I was steady, still with the plan. Thursday night, a message popped up on our family calendar. Lauren added a networking event, vague and convenient. Later, I overheard her on the phone, laughing that laugh again, soft and private, followed by the whisper tone she used for overtime that wasn't. I checked the folder one more time. Receipts, screenshots, the server's confirmation, the deputy's number starred. The house felt like a stage set after rehearsal. Props in place, lines memorized, curtain waiting. At 11:58, a text blinked on her second phone. Evergreen, same time. Curtain call. December 18th arrived frostbitten and bright. I told the kids I had errands and left early. Coffee in a stainless mug that tasted like metal. The drive to Evergreen Lodge felt shorter than it should, as if the road knew the script. I parked where I could see the lobby without being seen. Emily texted porch light on, meaning she was steady too. The process server met me near the fireplace, a man in a clean jacket who looked like every Little League dad I've ever known. We reviewed the plan, confirmed Lauren's name, hand papers, step back. The deputy walked in, calm, not theatrical, nodded, and took position by the desk. My heart kept trying to sprint out of my chest. I pictured Lily's science fair ribbon, Noah's muddy cleats, the wall of frames at home, waiting for a new truth. The elevator dinged somewhere above us. I felt the air change, the way it does before a storm. Then the doors began to open. I called the county and asked for Sheriff Barnes because older men know you start with the person who can say yes or no. He picked up on the third ring, voice steady, the kind you trust at a crash site. I didn't dramatize. I laid it out like a report. Marriage, minors in the home, proof gathered, a process server retained, a hotel reservation for a specific date and time. Sir, I'm not looking for a scene. I'm looking for a clean service and a safe exit. He asked 3 questions I respected. Any chance of violence? Any firearms involved? Kids present? No, and God, no. He said, we'll keep it professional. I'll be there. When a man like that says he'll be there, your pulse drops 10 beats. We confirmed the logistics, lobby, front desk, ID check, papers delivered fast. I thanked him the way you thank a stranger who holds a door while your hands are full. He said, we'll do this right. That word held me together. Evergreen Lodge looked like a postcard for winter. Pine garland, a stone fireplace, a clock that ticked loud enough to measure courage. I took the chair with my back to the wall, habit from 1,000 diners and waiting rooms. The process server sat 2 seats away, reading a brochure like it mattered. Sheriff Barnes spoke to the desk clerk, calm as weather, then nodded to me once, the kind of nod men give when words would make it worse. Couples drifted through in holiday sweaters. A kid in a red hat dragged a suitcase shaped like a dinosaur. I watched ordinary life keep moving and wondered how many disasters had started in rooms exactly like this. My phone buzzed. Emily. Porch light on. Translation: I'm steady. You steady. Me. On. I set the papers on my knee, felt their weight, and thought about the weight they'd remove. The clock struck the half hour. Somewhere above us, an elevator began its gentle descent. Elevators announce themselves with a small wind. You feel it on your face before anything happens. The doors parted, and there she was. White bathrobe, hotel slippers, hair damp, the kind of wet that says the mirror had been kind a moment ago. Lauren blinked once, twice, then found me and stopped breathing. Sheriff Barnes stepped forward, respectful but unflinching. "Ma'am, I need to confirm your name." She swallowed. "Lauren Harris." He glanced back at me, then to the process server, who moved with the quiet competence of a man changing a tire in the rain. The envelope touched her palm like a verdict. Her fingers clutched it as if warmth could change the words inside. "Michael, wait." Her voice broke on my name. Somewhere to our left, a bellhop rolled by with clinking ice. The world, insultingly, did not stop. My heart did its best to leave my chest. I said nothing yet. Silence can be a full sentence. Words said in anger ruin the record. I wanted the record clean. I stood, not rushing, and met her eyes the way you meet a truth you won't dodge anymore. "You had an affair, Lauren. I'm done." Simple, not a speech. The kind of sentence a judge could read back. She reached for me, bathrobe sleeve slipping, wedding ring flashing under lobby lights that didn't care. "It's not what you think," she said, the oldest line in the world. "It's your fault, too," she added, the second oldest. The deputy didn't touch her. He just shifted a half step, a human comma. The process server explained service in phrases I barely heard. My hands remembered other lobbies, hospital, school, DMV, and how paperwork can close one door and open another. I thought of Lily's laugh and Noah's cereal debates and decided their father would leave with his spine straight. I turned toward the exit. Her breath hitched. The clock ticked, loud again. There's a way to walk away without dragging the whole room behind you. I took it. Past the fireplace, past the wreath that smelled like a better Christmas, past the front desk where the clerk avoided my eyes out of kindness. The doors whooshed open and the cold hit me honest. Outside, the parking lot lights carved everything into clear shapes. Cars, snow piles, me. My legs felt strange, like I'd stepped off a boat. I braced a hand on the hood and breathed until the air stopped scraping. Inside, I could still hear the elevator chime echoing in my head, a bell that meant enough. My phone buzzed. Emily. Porch light still on. Me. On. I looked back once, not for her, but for the man I'd been walking in. He didn't fit me anymore. I slid into the driver's seat, stared at my own eyes in the rear view, and found them steady. When I turned the key, the engine sounded like a decision. I was halfway to the doors when I heard it. My name. Broken in the middle. I didn't turn. The deputy's voice stayed level, the way you talk to a skittish horse. Later, the process server would tell me she went to her knees, bathrobe puddling like a white flag. Maybe that's true. I kept walking. You learn at our age that looking back can turn you to salt. Outside, the cold stitched me together. Inside, the elevator shut with a soft metal kiss. I sat in the car and watched my breath fog the glass. The world smeared and then clear, smeared and then clear. The way denial and truth trade places until one wins. My phone buzzed. Emily. Home safe when you can. Porch light on. I typed on and put the phone face down. The lobby doors opened again behind me. I didn't check who came out. A man can choose his last image. Mine was the envelope landing in her hand. News travels faster than snowmelt. By Sunday afternoon, the cul-de-sac had a version. Hotel, deputy, papers. People were kind the way people are, sideways. A neighbor waved longer than usual. Another pretended not to see me while walking his dog, then texted later. Anything you need. The HOA thread pinged about holiday lights, then went quiet when my name popped up. At church, a deacon gripped my shoulder like a tourniquet. In the grocery store, the checker bagged my eggs like relics. I kept my errand small and my sentences simple. We're handling it. The kids are okay. Thanks. Older adults know the code. Don't feed gossip. Stack facts. At home, I took down the beach photo because salt stings. I left the school pictures because pride doesn't. Lily asked if she could still go to Emma's. Noah wanted to know if Santa finds apartments. I said yes to both. The world kept moving forward. I would not be the one to make it stop. Consequences aren't just what happens. They're what you prevent. I called our attorney, confirmed next steps, and put a freeze on the joint card like you do before a long trip. I changed the Wi-Fi password, not as a punishment, but because I needed a door I could lock. I told the school counselor enough to watch the kids without painting their mother in one color. Men my age understand triage. You save the most important organs first. I cooked simple, chili that lasts 2 nights, grilled cheese cut diagonal because Noah says it tastes better that way. When an old friend asked me out for a beer to talk man to man, I said yes, then no, then made coffee at my own kitchen table and wrote down what mattered. Bedtime stays the same. Homework gets done. Calm voices. No surprises. That night, I folded the bathrobe at the foot of our bed and carried it to the linen closet. Some things belong out of sight while you heal. Mom came over with a casserole the way mothers fight wars. Hot dish in hand, prayers in pocket. We ate at the small table because the big one felt theatrical. She asked a few careful questions and then reached for a story the way she always has. Your father and I got through rough seas, she said, eyes on the salt shaker. People make mistakes, and sometimes, Michael, sometimes a door you think is closed can open again. She told me about the year Dad lost his job and his temper, how apologies took practice, how endurance is a kind of love. I heard the hope in her voice and the ache under it. She wants her boy's life to mend. She wants her grandkids' holidays without custody schedules. I do too. I told her I respected her wisdom because I do. I told her I'd sit with counsel and clergy because I will. She squeezed my hand like it was a life preserver. Then she said the hardest sentence kindly. Maybe forgive her. I walked Mom to her car, night air clean and thin, breath like small clouds. She hugged me long, the way you hold babies and men who are hurting. Pray on it, she said. I will, I answered, because I do. When she drove off, the porch light threw our shadows on the siding, mine steady, the house taller than both of us. I went back inside and stood by the wall of frames. The photos didn't argue. They just looked back, generous and mute. I remembered the hotel lobby, the sentence I chose. 12 plain words that wouldn't stain on replay. My phone lit with a message I didn't open. I set it face down and spoke out loud to the empty room, to the boy I was and the father I am. Respect doesn't come back. Not the way trust needs it to. Not the way my kids need me to model it. That line isn't for punishment. It's a boundary, and boundaries keep families from drowning. She showed up at the door at dinner time with red eyes and a calm I didn't trust. Please, she said, palms open like a peace offering. Therapy. I'll do anything. Older men know this rhythm. Apology, promise, a brochure for tomorrow. I set 2 plates anyway. She didn't eat, only listed steps. Individual counseling, couples counseling, a post-nup if I wanted one. Total transparency. The second phone gone forever. She said all the right words, and part of me, the husband who liked fixing things, leaned forward. I told her I'd attend a few sessions, not as a vow, as information. Boundaries are how grown-ups move through fire without becoming it. That night, I emailed the counselor my non-negotiables. No blame shifting, full disclosure, respect in the room. Lauren replied she understood. I slept a little, the way you do on a red-eye, eyes closed, body awake. Hope didn't return, but a plan did. I could sit in a chair without surrendering. The office smelled like tea and lemon cleaner, neutral on purpose. We sat on a soft couch with too many pillows, and Dr. Miller asked for the story as you each understand it. I went first. Facts, dates, proof. Lauren nodded at the right places, fingers whirring a tissue into lace. When it was her turn, she said shame out loud. I betrayed my vows, she began, voice shaky but clear. I lied. I hurt our children. Real words, not lawyered, not spun. She cried hard enough to smudge the careful eyeliner. I didn't reach for her. I reached for my own breath. Dr. Miller nodded, not congratulating, just acknowledging that honesty is a door. Walking out, the winter sun looked less punishing. In the parking lot, she touched my sleeve and whispered, "Thank you for coming." I said, "Thank you for telling the truth." Small sentence, important ground. For one afternoon, remorse looked like something that could grow. The second session started gentler and veered hard. We were 30 minutes in when Lauren changed tense from "I did" to "you didn't." "You were never there for me," she said, eyes bright, like she'd found the lever that could move the room. "You worked late. You missed signals. You stopped being romantic." Dr. Miller lifted a hand, not to scold, to slow. "We can explore needs without erasing responsibility," she said. Lauren kept going. I felt the floor tilt, the old dance returning. Where my boundaries are furniture she rearranges to make the room fit. I spoke slowly. "I was present. Imperfect, but present. Your choice didn't happen because I failed. It happened because you stepped out." The counselor nodded, then asked Lauren to restate accountability in one sentence. Silence pressed its thumb on the clock. Finally, "I chose the affair." The words arrived, reluctant renters. Walking to the car, I knew what I'd heard. Not repentance, but fear of losing home base. At home, Lauren became efficient about healing. Calendars filled with therapy, book titles underlined on the counter, sticky notes with quotes about trust taped to the fridge. She sent me passwords, shared locations, forwarded emails I hadn't asked to see. It felt less like intimacy, more like public relations, press releases to a single-person audience. She asked if I noticed the effort. I said I did. She asked if effort equals progress. I said sometimes. We sat on opposite ends of the couch while a game murmured on TV, the kind of companionable evening that used to feel like marriage. She scooted closer, hand on my knee, a gesture that once meant, "I choose you." My body answered with static. I realized I wasn't afraid of being alone. I was afraid of faking my way back to the image on the wall. "What do you want from me right now?" I asked. She said, "Tell me we'll be okay." I couldn't give that on credit. On our third visit, Dr. Miller asked us to label what we felt, not argue motives. I said grief, for a house still standing that no longer felt like home. I said anger, steady, not explosive, the kind that respects itself. I said relief, because clarity, even cruel, beats confusion. Lauren said she felt terror, not at what she'd done, at what she might lose, me, the children's mornings, the familiarity of our rhythms. That's when the picture sharpened. Remorse says, "I wounded you and need to understand the cut." Fear says, "Yardo mayn't make me live without my comforts." I didn't punish her with silence. I told the truth plainly, the way men our age would want someone to tell their sons and daughters. "I hear your fear, but fear is not the same as repentance. I can sit in these chairs and be civil. I can co-parent with respect. I cannot unknow what I know." The room didn't argue. It just held us while the truth landed. The question came while I was packing her lunch. Turkey, apple slices, the good chips. Lily stood in the doorway with that brave teen look that fools no one. "Dad, will Mom come home?" The knife paused on the cutting board. Older dads know there are two kinds of answers, fast and kind. I chose kind. Which is slower? "Mom will always be your mom," I said, keeping my voice even. "You'll see her a lot. We're figuring out the right way." She nodded, but her eyes asked for a picture, not a policy. I pulled the calendar off the fridge and penciled simple blocks. Mom days, dad days, game days that don't get argued about. "You won't be the messenger," I added. "Grown-ups will handle grown-up things." She leaned into my shoulder the way she did at 10, then straightened like a freshman again. "Okay," she said. When the bus braked outside, she grabbed the lunch and went. The door closed. My knees finally felt the weight. Noah didn't ask questions. He went quiet, which is louder if you're listening. He stepped wide around the wall of photos like it could tip. At breakfast, he counted cereal loops, then lined them by color the way anxious kids organize a world that won't cooperate. I sat beside him and started a line of my own, yellow, green, purple, until our rows met. "You know," I said, "when I was your age, I sorted my baseball cards every night. Same reason." He looked up. I slid a card from my wallet. My dad at 40, sunburned and proud, holding a fish he pretended was bigger than it was. "Families change shape sometimes, but the people who love you don't shrink." He nodded, almost smiled, then pushed the purple loops toward my side. A truce. That afternoon, I emailed his teacher, short, respectful, so she'd watch for the fidgets and the dip. Before bed, Noah asked if I could read. He fell asleep on chapter 2, hand on my sleeve. Some choices arrive like weather, some like mail you have to sign for. I booked an appointment with my attorney and sat in a chair that had seen other men survive worse. He slid the forms across the desk, explained the boxes, the timelines, the words that replace forever with custody and division. I didn't cry. I read. I asked about the house, her retirement account, the kids' holidays, the Saturday soccer schedule we all pretend isn't sacred. He said, "We'll keep it simple if everyone stays civil." I said, "I'll be civil." He warned me about late-night second thoughts and early morning bargains with hope. "Decide in daylight," he said. I drove to a park and watched a dad teach his daughter to ride without training wheels, his hand hovering over the seat until she believed she could balance. I knew then I had to take my hand off a life that couldn't ride straight anymore. I scheduled the filing for Friday at 10. Friday came with that hospital lobby quiet, the kind that makes you check your phone even when it's in your hand. I sat at the long table in records while a clerk stapled papers with the patience of a monk. "Sign here, initial here," she said, not unkind. My pen felt heavier than pens should feel. I wrote my name the way I taught the kids, slow, legible, no shortcuts, because some signatures deserve witnesses, even if the witness is only you. Halfway through, my hand trembled. I set the pen down, breathed, picked it up again. When I finished, the clerk stamped the top page. The sound was small and final. I walked to the parking lot with a copy in a manila envelope that suddenly weighed as much as a bowling ball. In the car, I didn't start the engine. I called my mother. "It's done," I said. She cried softly. I didn't. I looked at my hands. They were shaking less. Boundaries can steady you like that. Moving day didn't roar. It murmured. Cardboard thumped on hardwood. Tape squeaked. Drawers sighed. Lauren labeled everything in tidy marker. Kitchen, bath, winter. She avoided the kids' rooms, and I was grateful. Lily braided and unbraided her hair at the table. Noah practiced tying his shoes tighter than necessary. We kept it civil. Signatures, keys, a list for utilities. When the truck door slid down, the sound felt like a lid. Lauren stood in the doorway with a set of apartment keys on a blue lanyard. "It's in Denver," she said, as if I didn't know. "Safe neighborhood." I nodded. "Text when you're settled," I added, meaning the children will need that anchor. She reached out, then folded her hand back into her coat. No scene, no speech, just the quiet math of subtraction. After she drove off, the house breathed in and out like it had been bracing too. I washed 2 plates, 2 glasses, 2 forks. The sink was empty. For the first time, I felt space instead of absence. I started in the hallway where our greatest hits lived. Wedding day, the crooked sandcastle, Lily missing her front teeth, Noah in a dinosaur suit. I took each frame down and set it on a towel like it could bruise, not because I wanted to erase us, but because the wall kept telling the wrong tense. I patched nail holes with spackle, sanded, painted a calm color that made the house exhale. I kept the school photos on a smaller shelf, proof that love moves forward even when the adults limp. I donated the robe, changed the sheets, flipped the mattress like my father taught me after bad seasons. In the kitchen, I cleared a drawer for Mom Days notes, meds, schedules, the little stuff that feels big to kids. I brewed coffee and stood where the frames used to hang. The blank space didn't accuse me. It invited me. I pinned up a fresh calendar and wrote 3 words across the top: steady, clean, kind. Emily and I still talked, texts about school pickup, a photo of a math worksheet, weather complaints like normal people. We met for coffee twice, public and plain. No secrets, no leaning across the table for rescue. She wore simple sweaters and told the truth in full sentences. We didn't trade fantasies. We traded logistics and the kind of jokes you make when life has humbled you. We walked once at the park where the geese act like they pay taxes. "I'm not ready for anything," she said. "Me neither," I answered, grateful to mean it. We talked about lawyers who speak human, about kids who pretend they're fine but sleep with the lights on, about not making new wounds while stitching the old ones. When we parted, there was no promise to be more, only permission to be less alone. Driving home, I caught myself breathing easier. Sometimes healing doesn't look romantic at all. Sometimes it looks like 2 broken people keeping each other standing. I started small, a slow jog around Maple Ridge before the sun figured itself out. A cheap notebook with a blue cover, black coffee I actually tasted. At first my legs argued and my sentences were fragments. Then the rhythm arrived, step, breath, pen. The house felt different in the mornings, not empty, just honest. I opened windows, let cold air scrub the rooms, and wrote 3 lines a day. 1 thing I did right, 1 thing I'm grateful for, 1 boundary I'll keep. I fixed a squeaky hinge, cooked eggs without checking my phone, Put fresh towels in the kids' bathroom like a hotel that means it. On the third week, Lily left a note on the fridge. Thanks for the lunch, Dad. My chest loosened. On the fifth week, Noah raced me to the mailbox and won. I laughed out loud. The calendar didn't bully me anymore. Peace didn't arrive with trumpets. It padded in on sock feet. The climax was quiet. I noticed I wasn't bracing. Rebirth isn't fireworks. It's permission. I gave myself some. I wore my wedding ring on a chain for a while, then set it gently in a drawer and closed it without ceremony. I kept the routines that kept me decent. Runs, journals, dinner at the table, even if it's just me and a kid with homework. I said yes to a guy's fishing Saturday and no to late-night texts that sounded like old patterns. In therapy, I told the truth without performing. I made a list labeled non-negotiables and taped it inside a kitchen cabinet. Tell the truth. Guard the kid's peace. Don't date to numb. Ask for help before midnight. When shame tried its old tricks, I answered with facts. I protected my home. I kept my word. I didn't set fire to prove I was burning. Standing in the doorway one evening, porch light warm on the siding, I said it out loud, clear and simple. Love without loyalty is nothing but a hollow shell. 16 years ended with a signature, but it didn't end me. Betrayal taught me boundaries. Respect taught me peace. I'm not a hero, I'm a man who stopped negotiating with what was killing him. If you've stood where I stood, counting late-night lies, protecting kids who didn't ask for this, hear me. You are allowed to choose dignity over damage. Healing wasn't fireworks. It was showing up, sober and steady, until the house felt honest again. That's the message I'm leaving with you. Love without loyalty is a hollow shell, and a hollow shell cannot hold a family. Your turn. If you've lived this, drop a comment. Write forgive. If you would have tried again, walk away. If you chose the line I chose, or €1 if you felt that sting, or hope you never do. Tell me what you learned so the next man or woman doesn't feel alone. Subscribe for more true stories we usually keep quiet, because the next chapter we tell might be yours.